I have a delivery for Francesca Morton.
Hey, there's blood here.
That recliner almost chopped my mate's finger off.
He keeps saying the recliner's possessed. I really don't know what's gotten into him.
This week, we examine Killer Sofa, a 2019 horror film from New Zealand. When a killer reclining chair becomes enchanted by a young girl, it begins committing crimes of passion on behalf of the Dubik that possesses it. Welcome to Kaytothewatch. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Kaytothewatch
Father's Day edition.
So since it's Father's Day, on the day that we're releasing this, we decided to pick something a little special. What does every dad want more on Father's Day than to just grab a cold beer, sit in their favorite recliner or on their favorite spot on the couch, and just chill and be left the fuck alone? And if you come and interrupt them, they're probably going to tell you,
I'll kill you.
So we thought, what would be the perfect movie to combine those two sentiments on Father's Day? How about Killer Sofa? So we'll get right into it. This is a film made by a production company called Vendetta, which when I looked them up, I thought, okay, they do a lot of horror films, maybe some B-horror movies. But I kept scrolling through their list and I found that they have movies that touch on social issues. They have movies that have A-list celebrities in them. And not for nothing, they have a couple that we noticed that we probably will end up watching on this series later. So right off the bat, the opening scene of this movie is a horror trope classic. It has a guy tied up on a table. It's got a dude with a bone saw who's ready to just hack him to pieces. There's a tiny little shrine with a picture of a woman who we don't know yet. And then there's that devilish looking reclining chair hanging out in the background watching.
From there we jump to another scene with little to no context at all. We see a few young folks poking around through a storage unit or a garage. Once inside they see some witchcrafty looking shit. Kind of weird. They do get to the back of the room and they find this recliner tied up BDSM style with a note on it that says delivered to Francesca.
So once we get through those first two scenes and some opening credits, finally we get our first little piece of plot information. Francesca and her friend Maxie are visited by detectives Bob Gravy and Roseanne Grape. And yes, before you comment down below, those are their real names, I'm not fucking with you. These two detectives want to know about a mutual acquaintance of theirs named Federico, who was just found dead. Through a little bit of conversation with the detectives, we learn a very important aspect of Francesca's character.
Things got kind of out of hand. Federico was very dedicated to me.
Dedicated? The guy was obsessed. Francesca makes a habit of attracting weirdos.
Maxie. They're not weirdos. They're just dedicated.
Obsessed.
So from there we catch up with the recliner, who just happens to be delivered to a Jewish antiques owner named Jack, sometimes called Rabbi, who we later find out is Maxie's grandfather.
Yeah, so right off the bat, Jack the Rabbi is able to tell this chair's got some sinister vibes. He did a vibe check. Didn't pass. So he walks over, he's checking it out, puts a hand on it, and suddenly unlocks an achievement for his character's lore, apparently. I don't know why, it's never really covered, but he kind of just like hacks the Matrix when he touches his chair and goes on some fucked up vision quest through the woods, following some woman being chased. So what we end up learning about 2 scenes later is that the rabbi admits when he looked at that chair, he knew it wasn't going to pass the vibe check.
Vibe check.
He says that he could tell it was possessed by Dubuque. The book. We're going to butcher this word for the rest of the video, so you can comment down below and give us shit if you want, but that word's hard and we're stupid. So I'm just letting you know we're going to butcher it the same way that dude got butchered in the first scene of the film.
Either way, the chair gets delivered to Francesca's place, and her roommate TJ lugs it up the stairs for her.
So finally, this fucking chair makes it to its final destination, which is Francesca's apartment, after it was wrongfully delivered to an old rabbi dude who can see into the past by touching evil furniture, and who also happens to be Francesca's best friend's grandfather. Doesn't matter though, because finally the chair has made it. Hashtag we made it.
What I want to know is, why was the chair delivered to Francesca anyway, if Rabbi Jack knew the chair was demonic? Kinda seems like he should have just kept it and not given it to her.
That would have been the classier thing to do.
Totally.
Instead of just being like, get this shit out of here. It's not my problem.
Still, it's a good thing he parted ways with the chair, because that brings us to one of the funniest scenes in the movie and one of the most awkward sex scenes in any movie.
Yeah, and we'll get to those scenes in a second. Basically, what happens here is Maxie comes over to hang out with Francesca because Francesca is still kind of freaked out from hearing about the murder of Federico from the detectives, so she doesn't want to be alone. So Maxie comes over, they watch a movie, they chill, they talk a little bit, and then Maxie has to dip out.
Apparently not strange enough, so she leaves anyway, and we're treated to every Furnophile's wet nightmare, a fully clothed girl making sweet, sweet love to a recliner.
You hate to see it. But this is where the movie really hits X Games mode. Not only do we get a sex scene between a fully clothed female and a recliner, where both parties are somehow simultaneously consensual and non-consensual, but she wakes up the next morning to find a trail of candles leading from the bedroom to the recliner with a delicious little breakfast sitting on the armrest.
Our old pal TJ gets home from a night of partying, clearly hungover. Francesca somehow thinks he's the one who prepared the breakfast for her. How sweet. TJ does what any hungover lad would do and just starts chomping on that breakfast, not paying attention to anything Francesca is saying. This pisses off the chair so much. It just gives him the cold armrest.
So while all this morning weirdness is happening at Francesca's house, the rabbi is somewhere across town using his YouTube Premium subscription to watch video after video about possessions and popping aspirin like they're Sour Patch Skittles.
Francesca has to go talk to Detectives Grape and Gravy again, which, by the way, would be the coolest detective show name. While she's gone, TJ is alone with the killer sofa, and we see how it earns its name.
The killer sofa.
So luckily, TJ manages to escape death. He calls Francesca when she's down talking to the detectives, and they all rush over. They find TJ bleeding out in the bathtub. He locked himself in the bathroom to protect himself from the killer sofa. But more tragically, his frozen pizza has burned to death. For those keeping score, this is the first real casualty of the film.
So TJ ends up staying at his mom's house because he's insisting that the chair is demonic. And like any 20-something who has no direction in life, he only lives 3 houses away from his mom.
Hell yeah.
The chair ends up finding TJ that night. The next morning, while his mom's cleaning, she finds a gruesome discovery.
Yet again, Francesca receives a text message from the detectives saying, "Can you come down and talk to us?" This is about the 57th time it's happened in this film, but she does it every time. So as she's leaving her apartment, she ends up literally running into this guy, Ralph, who's another one of these creepy, dedicated types who admits that he just wants to put a baby in her oven. But what is it? Bun in her oven?
Frozen pizza in the oven?
That's the one.
Hey, Francesca.
Oh, Ralph. I'm really sorry, I have to go.
Have you thought about what I asked?
I told you, I can't marry you, Ralph. I've got a boyfriend.
Maxie told me about TJ. Horrible thing. He has weak bones. I have strong bones. It makes strong babies.
Babies? I'm too young for babies, Ralph. I'm sorry.
You gotta let me in, Francesca.
Now, even though he says, "You gotta let me in, Francesca," this dumb fuck decides to let himself in. So this weirdo decides to rig up her apartment with hidden cameras that he just so happened to have on him, goes through her laundry, and then proceeds to have sex with her bra and hat.
As expected, the killer sofa has taken exception to this behavior, and now it has a taste for blood. So while this amateur Casanova asshole is trying to turn her wide-brimmed sun hat into a man-milk soaked jizz vat, yes, I did write that joke down. Anyway, I digress. While this idiot is turning her hat and bra into a used condom, the chair does what it does best.
Killing.
Francesca!
So the detectives tell Francesca that they found TJ dead at his mom's house. They call Maxie down just to narrow the list of killers down. Francesca ends up identifying Ralph, who we find out is Maxie's cousin. But, spoiler alert, that bitch is dead.
Unfortunately for them, he just died in the last scene. Okay, get ready for some turbo plot at this point, because shit just pops off in like a 5-minute span of time, and it's honestly too much to show. So basically, where we're at now is, on one side of town, the rabbi is following a trail of leads that relates to the recliner. He's trying to figure out where it went to, because he needs to find it. His girlfriend seems to recall suddenly, out of the blue, wait, what's the name of Maxie's best friend? Isn't it Francesca? But Rabbi, not really so sure. Then, on the other side of town, we have Francesca and Maxie, who think that maybe Ralph is the killer, and she just ran into him when she was leaving her apartment on her way to go talk to the detectives. So they decide that they're gonna go over here to a hotel and hide out, just in case the killer, Ralph, maybe, I don't know. Is he? No, he's dead, but they don't know that. Just in case he's coming after them, they hide out at this hotel. And then, about 5 minutes after getting to the hotel, Maxie's like, well, I gotta go and talk to my grandfather. Great, paths are about to converge. Right? Wrong. For some reason, Francesca says, hey, on your way over to your grandfather's, can you stop by my place and just check on the chair? Just check on the recliner, just in case. Also, the last place she saw Ralph was at her place. They think he might be the killer. The detectives are looking for Ralph. Maxie's on her way over to Francesca's place for Francesca for some reason, requesting that she go there, even though she knows the killer could be there. She wants her best friend to check on a chair. Sick.
So we're back at the apartment. Maxie sees the recliner getting rid of Ralph's body. It's just dumping him in a pile of trash. The recliner sees Maxie and goes after her. Maxie barely escapes through the bathroom window and drops her keys on the way out. Typical.
Great. So now Maxie's on the run, she's lost her keys, and Francesca's back at the hotel now talking to the detectives who have come to check on her. She says, oh shit, I'm worried because Maxie hasn't returned. Newsflash, dumb bitch, you sent your best friend to the last place you saw the guy you suspected of being the killer. Of course she's not returning your calls. You put her in harm's way. So they're like, oh shit, and they rush over to the apartment, and after a little bit of sleuthing around, they're able to find her keys and Ralph's dead body.
Finally, the chair speaks to her, professing its love for Valerie.
Whoever that is. I want to make a quick note about this scene. This is the first time we hear the chair talk, and I busted up laughing when we watched it because the way it says I love you reminded me of the Country Girl Vine.
Country boy, I love you.
Francesca freaks the fuck out. The detectives are clueless because their biggest lead is now dead in a pile of trash somewhere. The rabbi calls Francesca over so they can finally talk about this demonic chair.
And they do it, of course, in the most dramatic way possible. Are you ready for more turbo plot? Because in this scene, they just exposition take a dump on the table. They lay out the whole kit and caboodle from start to finish. The whole plot to this movie is laid out in this scene. Basically, the rabbi explains while they're sitting down looking at a laptop surrounded by fucking candles and dramatic lighting. He explains the story of the book, maybe, curse, and how the spirits of two long-lost lovers from the 1800s who used to practice witchcraft were discovered by some townspeople and run out of town. The man was killed by the mob, the woman committed suicide in front of a peasant, which for some reason possessed her, and then that peasant woman, who was it? Well, none other than Francesca's great-grandmother. So since the book curse can be passed on from generation to generation, this means that Francesca is possessed as well.
We still have one missing piece to this puzzle. If the evil spirit needs a body to cling onto, and all of these dedicated guys are now dead, what is the evil spirit clinging onto?
Boom! The motherfucking detective. That's right, you guessed it. Detective Bob Evans Gravy and Mashed Potatoes has now become one of these dedicated men. He is obsessed with Francesca, and he is the reason this evil spirit is able to stay woke.
In a final dramatic confrontation with the recliner, Francesca goes over to put the evil spirit in a box that her and the rabbi constructed together. After the chair and Francesca play a little soccer, she says, fuck it, decides to dump gasoline all over, mostly herself, and a little bit on the chair.
Now, even if you manage to completely overlook the fact that she dumps almost all the gasoline on herself, the whole effort is completely futile, because every time she dramatically strikes that match to threateningly, to menacingly warn the chair, I will set you alight. He just blows it out. So, completely useless effort on her part. A+ for effort, I guess.
Nah.
A+ for heart.
The thought was there.
The thought was there. You meant well.
The detectives arrive just in the nick of time and shoot the recliner to death. They open it and there's a body in there, and it's Federico, the guy we saw in the beginning, getting hacked up.
Right. So, how no one was able to figure out that there was a dead, rotting corpse in a chair just alone from the smell should have been enough, but it's beyond us how no one was able to figure that out.
Make no mistake, there's still 20 minutes left of this movie, and it has enough plot twists that you'll never know what's coming.
Bet you won't. So thank you, everybody, for joining us once more on this installment of Kaytothewatch. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Please, if you enjoyed the video, throw us a subscribe. We'll keep making content like this. If you hated it, drop a comment down below and tell us why we suck. And if you ever want to catch us live, go to twitch.tv/Kaytothewhy, and we'll see you there. Peace.